Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to Focus AI. So now, in today, I will cover in brief like what are different types of machine learning. Now, to be specific, there are four types. I mean, generally, some says two types, three types, or even four types. So the first one is the supervised machine learning. I will come into what is actually supervised machine learning means. So the first one and the very basic one is supervised one, and another one is unsupervised. There is a third category, we call it reinforcement learning. And nowadays, if you are from the AI field, you might heard that generative learning or generative training. This is another kind of machine learning which is getting popular more and more nowadays. But for the sake of this video, I will only consider supervised and unsupervised one, and I will start the tutorial on these two at first. But don't worry, I will come with all other future videos for this reinforcement learning and generative learning also. So now supervised learning. Now, if you have watched my video, which was I guess what is machine learning, I told you how it is different from the traditional programming. In machine learning, I told that it needs inputs and corresponding outputs, and it generates rule. Supervised machine learning is as simple as that. You have a supervised machine learning model, you have to give your input, you have to give your corresponding output. It will be trained and rules will be coming out. Using that rules, you can do the predictions. Now, let me show you this one. This is an example of a data set for a supervised learning. Now, this is specifically a type of supervised learning. I will come into that very quickly. So now here you can see this black box. This black box is actually this black box is actually the input to your model, input to your supervised model, and this yellow box is actually the corresponding output. Now, for this data point, this is the output. For this data point, this is the output. For this data point, this is the output. So when I'm building a supervised model, then we have to provide both. We have to provide this black box as well as this yellow box. That means our inputs and our output. Now, in machine learning term, we say inputs as a feature or a set of features. Okay, we won't say outputs and inputs anymore. We will say features, data set of features, whatever it is. So here in this case, we have four features. So we have something called sepal length, sepal width, petal width. Now you might understand or you might think like from where this data has come. Now this is a very basic and hello world problem of machine learning. This is called the iris flower data set. Okay, you have to predict based on any given feature what is this flower called. So there are three types of flowers are there. One is setiosa, one is virginica, and the third one is versicolor. So you have to train your machine learning model in such a way that when a new feature set will be given to you, you have to predict correctly that this feature set belongs to either of these three iris flowers. Okay. So this is the basic idea of supervised learning. Now, coming to the part, there are typically two parts for supervised learning. One is regression, another is classification. Now, here this iris flower, whatever I have shown you, this is a problem of classification. Because you have to classify, You have three classes here, Setiosa, Virginica, and Versicolor, three classes. So you have to classify. And regression is something else. Now, obviously, I will come into the more depth what is regression and classification when I will come with dedicated proper videos. I will concentrate into more the technical nitty-gritties of what is regression, what is classification. But somehow, from the English vocabulary, you can understand this example is classification and regression is something when you have to predict some output which is a real number valued. Now here you can see Setiosa, Virginica, Versicolor. These are not real number values. There are set of classes, distinct classes. But in regression, you have to predict real number of values. But anyway, don't be afraid if you didn't understand what I said. I will come into this regression and classification thing in a deep and thorough level. Okay. Okay, now this regression, there are many types of regression. I have listed a few. There is something called linear regression, polynomial regression, ridge, lasso, and elastic regression. There are more. In classification, we have k-nearest neighbor, logistic regression. Don't be confused. This is also regression, but used for classification. Support vector machine, which is also called as SVM, decision tree, random forest, and there are many more. I did asterisk to these three because this support vector machine or SVM, decision tree, and random forest, these three can also be used as a regression problem as well as classification problem. Okay, so that's why I given asterisks. Okay, so this is a general overview of supervised learning. Now we are coming to unsupervised learning. Now, similarly, I am using the iris dataset, but now if you remember that yellow box is missing actually, right? So I think you guessed it right. So unsupervised is where we have only the inputs or input features. There is no label. We have to somehow manage to get the labels. I think it sounds strange, but yes, we are given only input features, no outputs. We have to come out with some idea that how you can cluster them into different outputs based on the features. So that's why unsupervised are also typically two types. Clustering, because we have to cluster. Okay, if these are the similar features, it should go into some cluster. If these are the features, it should go into some another cluster. So this is how clustering works. Okay. And there is something called dimensionality reduction. So clustering and dimensionality reduction, these are typically unsupervised learning. So obviously I will come under what is dimensionality reduction, what is clustering in more details, because these are like the most basic concepts of machine learning theory and as well as in practice also. So just for your sake, there are many types of clusterings. I have listed 3 years: unsupervised clustering, density based clustering, and hierarchical clustering. Similarly, there are many dimensionality reduction. I have introduced you to two most important reduction technique, that is principal component analysis, also called as PCA, and it is something called TSNE. The full form is, if I'm not wrong, it's T distributed stochastic neighborhood embedding, I guess. That's just I have to be sure like what it is, but I think this is. So I will come into depth the coding perspective, the theoretical perspective, and the application perspective. What is all this? So this was the unsupervised one, and previously was the supervised one. In my next playlist, in my next tutorial, I will continue with supervised learning. There will be a dedicated playlist on supervised where you will get videos on regression as well as classification. Okay. So till now, this is the end of this video. Hope you have enjoyed it. Till then, see you and thank you very much. Happy machine learning.